So this is our power rankings pod, Andrew and I were going back and forth via text about how exactly to do this pod earlier today. And we think we've stumbled upon something that makes sense or may not, whatever. But whatever. It'll give us an opportunity to talk about the teams that are still alive in the playoffs and those that made the postseason. I say postseason and then got eliminated. And we're going to try to do that in some kind of orderly form or fashion, starting, I think, out of respect with the teams that have already advanced to the second round, because, man, it did not matter how talented you were or how talented you are, potentially still for some teams that are still alive. Nothing is guaranteed in this postseason. And there's a lot of reasons for that, that we'll get into, but 4 teams have already advanced. So good for them. And we'll start off by, I guess, we'll rank the title odds or the title chances of those 4.
Yeah.
And those 4 teams would be the Miami Heat, in no particular order, by the way. Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors, and who am I forgetting?
The Milwaukee Bucks. You're sleeping on Giannis once again.
So great place to start, because we should start by saying, I think I personally would have, and I think you would have too, had the Bucks number 1 in this. Well, actually, I don't know. You and your closet full of yellow and blue jerseys with
gold jerseys, sir.
Yellow gold jerseys. Can't get that wrong. Let's just say the conversation would have gone differently about the Bucks and their chances had it not been for this morning's news, which is that Chris Middleton, according to Shams, and we've seen no other reporting about this, is going to miss the entire second round of the playoffs, which is just, that's a gut punch to me. And I don't even give a shit about the Bucks. I care about NBA history, and like, man, does it mean they can't win this series? No, but I think it's certainly the biggest piece of news we've gotten out of these playoffs so far, right?
I mean, the Devin Booker thing
he might be back tonight,
but that's why before that, before we got that the Booker might be back, that was the biggest news for me. I will say the intrigue it adds for me is Giannis has a chance to do something really special. So that adds the intrigue, because you lose Middleton and then you go beat that Boston team who just swept KD and Kyrie. Talk about adding to your lore. We talked about this before the season, like Giannis's path to his place in, his legacy all time is to go through like a rigorous Eastern Conference path and then take down like a 60-win Western Conference team, which it's now laid out for him.
Very, very briefly, this is an off-season conversation, but so KD just got eliminated. We'll talk about that in a bit. He's a borderline top 10 player, right?
You had him 11, yeah.
Okay. Steph Curry is alive in these playoffs. I think if you were a betting man right now, I know if you were maybe you are going to be a betting man. I don't know. Maybe you have already
been the favorites now. So I've looked. If there were better odds, I would have took them.
So Steph Curry, I would also characterize him as a borderline top 10 all-time player. And certainly if he's the best player on a title team this year, probably helps that cause. Giannis Antetokounmpo has a chance to directly impact his all-time ranking in these playoffs based on not only what he does, but based on what 2 other competitors for that top 10 all-time spot either did in KD's case or potentially could do in the case of Steph. It also has me thinking, when's the last time we've had 2 potential top 10 all-time players face off in their primes in the NBA finals? I think you have to go back
to 2018.
2018 when...
So you're saying top 10 all time?
Top 10 all time.
Oh, so if you're saying that...
So LeBron and KD
Steph for borderline, then that's... Then I technically top 10. Yeah.
No, 2017 and 2018. I guess the difference for me with those is I don't think anyone thought the Cavs had a chance in either of those series.
I may be naive. I thought LeBron was kind of on one in 2018. And look, if J.R. Smith remembers the score or George Hill makes a free throw, they're up 1-0. And then
they were not winning that. They were not winning that series.
I don't think they would have won either. I also think if the Rockets decide to make like 4 more of those 44 3-pointers in game 7, or if Chris Paul doesn't get hurt, like there's a lot of domino effects that played out that way. The point is,
yes,
I also, if you're saying like, when's the last time we had a series where 2 top 10 players were playing against each other and we didn't know who was going to win?
And also, by the way,
more likely to win, got to go back to the 80s.
Wasn't joined by another. Like it was 2-on-1 in the Golden State Cleveland final. So I think that deserves mention as well. The Duncan LeBron ones didn't match up because it was either LeBron before his prime or Duncan after his prime. And then, you have to go back to the 80s.
Well, so the tricky part is that there's some very classic Lakers Spurs matchups in the 2000s. So that wasn't the finals, but that was Duncan against Kobe and Shaq, who I think the 3, like both of us would have them in the top 10. So while it wasn't the finals, we're
not going to do an all-time ranking right now.
You did an all-time ranking. Both of the all 3 were in your top 10. So
did I really?
Yes.
You have to remind me because I have to. You do a better job. There's a
graphic that everybody commented on when it happened. It's because you had Kevin Durant ahead of Steph Curry, and I provided the pushback, but they were all 3 were in your top 10.
Well, he could alter that. Okay, so let's get into it. Who's number 1 out of these 4 teams that have already advanced?
Golden State.
Not Boston.
No. They're 2, like Boston's number 2. And so, I want to see that series, but Golden State has the pedigree of like also having done it before, like the outscore ability that they can have at times,
I think I would have had Boston 3 behind Milwaukee 1 and Golden State 2 had it not been for the Middleton injury. And the reason is because I would have favored Milwaukee over Boston in the series, not comfortably, but like I would have felt pretty good about picking them. And I think Milwaukee would beat Golden State. Now, because I think we have to favor Boston now in their series against, although I'm not even sure about that. But see, this is why I'm like, I agree Golden State's probably the safest.
Mm-hmm.
But like, can I really sit here and be like the Warriors are the favorites to win the title right now? I don't feel like they are. I feel like whoever comes out of the East, even the other team that we are left completely out of this conversation for who gets the number 1 spot.
Mm-hmm.
Like if whoever makes it out of the East, that team's going to have earned their right to play in the finals.
So the tougher path, which bodies will have broken down even more because they went through the rigors of what we talk about with.
I know.
The basketball history where like you go through a weaker conference and then you play a team in the finals that hasn't had to go through as tough a road. Look,
is that really true though? Like the Bulls had those like just battle after battle after battle in the East. Not to say the West. Look, the West.
That's the thing. The West, though, I think go back to the early 2010s where the entire Western Conference was winning 50 games, and then they were playing LeBron and that team in the finals.
This is
because his like lead contenders or his most difficult opponent was like Roy Hibbert and Paul George those Pacer teams. And that one year,
hashtag Andrew hates LeBron.
I'm not saying I hate LeBron. I'm saying let's call a spade a spade. He didn't have the Eastern Conference, like the DeRozan, Lowry.
Yes, I know.
Raptors were his,
or the Hawks
1 year.
The 60. Yeah, the 60
come
Hawks.
on. Look,
that's fair.
I respect Boston. I picked them to beat the Nets and they won. Like I'm not disrespected by saying they're number 2. We got to show the Warriors the respect the 3-time champion deserves. And like there are multiple 3-time champions that have been through the wars, have different roles. They've found another death lineup. Like at a certain point, when do we just look at them and say, oh, you're the 2013-14 Spurs. Like you rebuilt it up again and now you're contenders. I'm trusting experience over the Celtics who like do not have a final appearance on their roster right
now. There is something, this because obviously we've been doing these pods all year. That there has been something about this team that I have been hesitant to anoint them.
I was
this
too.
year. I know you were
10-25, 10-24, whatever it was.
Yeah, but they were banged up and
they're not banged up anymore. Clay's hitting 5 threes a game. Draymond is going to Jokic and saying mine. Like,
I know.
Like they're back.
Okay, fine. You got me there. Okay. Golden State number 1. Boston number 2.
Yes. Now this is where it's interesting because I think because of the path, I think I have Milwaukee 4. And if the Middleton injury wasn't there, I'm with you. I'd probably have Milwaukee 1 over Golden State, but I'd probably. I honestly still think about having Golden State 1. Because of path, like I can't get over the fact that I think the winner, like Boston, like Milwaukee has to go through Boston. Like if that wasn't a thing, I would have them ahead of them of Miami.
Can we spend a minute on the Bucks depth chart?
Yeah, please. Okay. So after Middleton. Drew Holiday.
Well, hold on.
You want to go through it? Okay.
Let's just start at the top. Number 1,
Giannis
Antetokounmpo.
Yes.
How much better? Now, I don't want to say how much better is he than Jason Tatum because Jason Tatum is very good. If Giannis goes out and does what we know he's capable of, I like that's the part of it that's interesting to me because after Giannis, the rest of their starting lineup as of right now is probably it's going to be Brook Lopez, obviously at center. Now, here's the problem. Bobby Portis has been awesome for them. You can't play Brook Lopez, Giannis, and Bobby Portis at the same time. So it's like you're only playing 2 of those 3, but you get to play 2, like those 3 guys, power forward center for the entire game. That's really strong still. The rest of the lineup now, you're looking at Grayson Allen after Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, who's been very good, Wes Matthews, Pat Connaughton. I almost did it again.
Proud of you.
And is George Hill alive? What's he doing? Does it matter? We haven't seen him. Mm-hmm. So that's your team. You have a 7-man team.
Yeah. Man, if you're picking Milwaukee, you think Giannis is going to do all-time great things. I want to remind you the conversation we had at the beginning of the playoffs before the playoffs started. And it was like, well, who's stopping Kevin Durant? Boston did. Yeah, now they don't even have Middleton to worry about.
Hold on. I'm sitting on Javon Carter, by the way. Javon Carter also.
Maybe so am I. So I have to reconsider. Like, let's just appreciate what Boston accomplished. It's not even just that they beat the Nets, and no disrespect to Benji, but I actually thought what seemed from game 1, like this was going to be like a slug fight, and we were going to see slugfest, dogfight, whatever, a dog fest. Okay. 6-1. What seemed like it was going to go 7 games, like they won. They inserted their will on Brooklyn. Yeah. Like Kevin Durant looked human for 3 games and then had to shoot 31 shots in game 7 in order for him to do what he did to get to the point.
No, you're right. Man, I really don't want to be sleeping on Giannis.
I don't either. And if Middleton was there, because Boston basically said, listen, we're not letting both of you beat us tonight. We're going to zero in on KD, and then Seth Curry, you beat us. Bruce Brown, you beat us. Nick Claxton, and you're 1 for 11 from the free throw line in game 4. You beat us. I think if they zero in on Giannis, I want to see it happen, that Giannis against that defense is going to be able to still put up 33 and 17 like he did against a Bulls team that's checked out months ago.
I just wonder if we're going to look back in 2.5 weeks and be like, oh yeah, the guy who's one of the 10 greatest players, who's going to be one of the 10 greatest players of all time by the time he retires, put his team on his back and beat a Celtics team that might have been the 2nd or 3rd or 4th best team in the league this year, but they didn't have Giannis and the Bucks did. That's all I'm wondering sitting here right now.
Which is why that's the intriguing part. Because the counterpoint to every argument I just made is that Giannis ranked 4th, and I think justifiably based off of roster construction, right? Like if Giannis pulls this off and goes in and because like there's another aspect of this that I give Boston respect for. Last day of the season, both teams are tied. One team could have won and played Brooklyn in the first round. The other team instead, which was Milwaukee, they chose to sit all their guys, lose to Cleveland. So they would duck playing Brooklyn to play Chicago. And Boston was like, fuck that. We're playing all our guys the last game of the season. We want Brooklyn. And they went out there and took care of their business. And now game 7's in Boston. But like, that's my point is like, if it comes down to it, and because you sat the last game of the season, you're now on the road in Boston for game 7. That makes the path even more difficult. So I'm picking Boston in this series, but look, the all-time great potential, like we'll be looking back at this if Giannis is able to pull it off the same way that we talk about like LeBron against the Celtics in 2012 or Hakeem against the Spurs or the Suns in 95 or Michael coming back from 0-2 against the Knicks in 93. Like all of these legendary series performances that we go to, Giannis has a chance to do one of those this series.
So, you're going Golden State 1, Boston 2, Miami 3, Milwaukee 4?
Yes.
Okay. Fuck it. Milwaukee 1. I'm changing it. I'm switching it up. Milwaukee 1. They're going to beat Boston. They're going to continue. They're going to win the whole thing.
I love
Giannis is that good.